Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is due to arrive in South Africa today. It will be his first visit since the conflict between Israel and Hamas that left thousands dead in Gaza earlier this year. Abbas is expected to hold talks with President Jacob Zuma in Pretoria. Well, to preview this visit and analyze it a little bit more, we're joined in the studio by International Relations Commentator Tom Wheeler. Mr. Wheeler, thank you very much for coming in this morning. Palestinian relations with South Africa, go back a long way. We know from the history of the struggle, ANC and the PLO in the old days were very close. Right. Is that still is that still the texture of the relationship between the South African government today and the Palestinian Authority?
Well, I think if one looks at the statement that the South African government put out about this visit, it's a very carefully balanced one. So that we have relations with Israel and we have relations with Palestine. We have diplomatic missions in Ramallah and we have them in Tel Aviv. And so it's, I think South Africa is not jumping on one side or the other side. We're trying to play the mediator role, if you like, between the two.
But is the foreign policy on that score for South African perspective very clear? Because, you know that South Africa has a history of non-aligned, the ANC as a governing party has a history of non-alignment.
Yeah. You know, going back quite some years, there were attempts to bring together the two parties at one of the wine farms in the Western Cape. A group of people from both sides were brought there to try and get them talking to each other in a rational way. So this is a continuation, even though there's been quite a long gap. It goes back to the time of Thabo Mbeki's presidency, that South Africa is trying to assist to find a solution rather than to come down on one side or the other.
But these are complex problems in the Middle East. Not easy. I know sometimes we draw the comparison between apartheid South Africa days and what's going on currently in the Middle East, and some people are very critical of the Zionist policies, and then people also on the issue of settlers and all those kind of problems, and the right of Israel to exist on the other hand, and Palestinians' right to land.
That's right. No, it is indeed a very complex problem. But the only way it can be solved is if the two parties get around the table seriously to discuss a solution. Now, one of the problems is on the Israeli side that you've got some very radical right-wing people in the government, and they rather force the hand of the Israeli government. And so it gets worse rather than better. And I think that Abbas, my expectation that he will be discussing with the South African authorities, with President Zuma, how can we get this negotiation back on track?
Would that be the main issue at the talks between President Abbas today and President Zuma, or are there other matters? Normally when two heads of states meet, you tend to have all kinds of bilateral agreements that end up being signed.
I am not sure that there will be much of that kind, but I haven't heard of anything of that kind. But I think it's more about how do we move on in finding a solution to the problems we have there. Is there a model in South Africa from the way South Africa was dealt with between 1990 and 94, or even before 1990 up to 94? Is there something here that Israel and Palestine can learn to apply in their own case?
And obviously, I think South Africans, we believe we could be sharing some of those experiences to encourage a path for peace in the Middle East. Hence, we've invited him, and we're hosting President Abbas here.
Yes, you know, although you were very careful to say it was since after the Gaza incident, he has been here before. He paid a state visit I suppose 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I know because I was at the state banquet. But this, I think, is more focused on how do we move this problem out of the insoluble situation. Secretary of State Kerry, United States Secretary of State, has been talking to both sides, has been trying to find a solution, but things are just not moving there. And this problem does need to be solved.
And very briefly, Hamas is a factor in all of this?
Well, Abbas is running a government of what you call national unity, if you like, where Hamas is involved. Hamas won the last elections, so they have to be a factor. So you've got radicals on both sides and the people in the middle trying to make a difference.
Thank you very much. That's International Relations Commentator Tom Wheeler talking to us about the visit to South Africa of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. He's set to meet President Zuma in Pretoria later today. And we'll be live to the Union buildings as well after 7:30 this morning. eNCA's Mark Klusner will be covering today's visit of the Palestinian President.